So happy you were here today in cold New York City, correct?
Yes,
Yes,
exactly. So thank
that's
you for
what I
having
heard.
for me.
Oh, you're so welcome. Natalya Thakur, you are the founder and CEO of KNOVA, which is doing quite a lot in the finance realm as it relates to understanding where digital assets are going.
At KNOVA, we're really focused on building a single tech stack that's flexible enough for people to work across their traditional assets and tokenized assets. So traditional finance, meaning cash, treasuries, equities, tokenized assets, meaning crypto, stablecoins, tokenized funds, etc. And we've really carved out an expertise to build something that's very easy to implement within a matter of weeks to months. And that helps you actually operationalize your digital asset strategy with your existing tech stack. So, not having to do a bunch of rip and replace. This is technology that provides a very powerful middle layer where you can operate from one tech stack. And instead of operating across multiple backend systems, you can do a simple automation call or a simple API call to actually functionally do operations that would take 5, 10, 15 steps usually
Mhm,
across a multitude of backend systems.
mhm.
And so really giving people that toolkit or like that superpower as they enter the digital asset space, as they maybe are continuing to operate in the digital
Mhm.
asset space and realizing their systems aren't
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
scale. That's really what we get to provide them, is sort of like, hey, like you don't need to have a 2-year roadmap and a bunch of resourcing lined
yeah.
up to actually operationalize your strategy. You can take this off the shelf toolkit and within weeks or a couple months be up and running, and with very limited resources, so that it makes it easy to access and actually use the ecosystem and be excited to work across both the traditional and tokenized asset world, right? Because today a lot of the tools that have been built are, sitting within those two disparate ecosystems,
Mm.
and the stitching together of systems is, you know, not going to scale
Cumbersome.
over time,
Mhm,
and it's very cumbersome, and it's really not going to last very long as your business grows.
mhm. Did you find this, or did you this problem arise in your perspective when you were at BlackRock, for example? Where did you
Oh,
basically
totally. I
find this to
mean,
be?
for the last 12 years, I've worked at the intersection of either traditional finance and digital assets, really carving
Yep.
out expertise in the space. I worked on a capital markets desk at BlackRock, where working on their ETF and index investments team, working with custodians, working with market makers, working with some of these external bodies that all asset managers or multi asset businesses have to work with. And seeing how either disparate the systems were, or how manual the back end processes were to actually create, trade, and settle different types of assets.
Mhm.
I also worked at a couple of fintech startups. I
You were a
sat on
fellow. Yeah, you've
BlackRock's
been on
global
boards.
steering committee for digital assets,
Yeah.
um, and spent time. We have just really also spent some time helping those fintechs and institutions think about, like, how do we think through go to market with larger enterprises and financial institutions, because they're different beasts to work with.
Oh, yes.
I
Mm.
think for me, I've never, I'm not a founder to be a founder. This is an industry I feel highly dedicated to and want to contribute to, whether I'm a founder or doing it at another company. It happens
Mhm.
in this chapter of my life, it looks a little different. But I mean, for me, it's really about how do we set the design standards, the implementation techniques for this new financial technology to actually be implemented and used over time. There's a lot of
Mm.
media and news about, like, this company launched this, but when you look under the hood, the tech is not as great and people aren't actually using these new products and services because it's quite hard to do so, right? Business people
Mm.
make decisions, and then the head of ops or the head of engineering is basically told, great, like, go build it or go operationalize,
Yeah.
what we've signed off on. And that's really hard to do. So I think my work experience has really helped with that. I also think a lot of my industry committee global initiative experience has helped with that. So, I co-founded the Stanford Future Digital Currency Initiative.
Yeah.
I'm on the leadership of the Bretton Woods Committee, where we work on a lot of initiatives around digital assets, tokenization of assets with top financial executives. And that's where you hear a lot of behind the door conversations of what's working, what's not. Actually, how do we make this ecosystem be sustainable over time versus just engaging with the ecosystem for a quick buck, right? A lot of people are in the ecosystem to, turn a quick buck, but there's other things that we should be thinking about for the longevity of the ecosystem. And that's what I'm really excited about.
One thing you said that I'm like, oh, don't hear that too often is it doesn't matter, or I'm not too concerned if I'm the founder, I'm in the space, I want this to work and so forth. That is avant-garde, because normally it's, no, I have to be the founder and I have to be the one who has a solution and it has to be this. But I more hear you saying, Natalya, like, no, it's the love of the industry and your experience in it. And however we get to the solution you're happy about.
Correct. And actually a lot of the people that, we talk to or partner with, I'm really honest and open with them about that. I say, I'm driven from a values perspective. It doesn't make any sense if all of us are working 7 days a week, 18-hour days to build things that are not going to ever actually be used or be put into pilot, but not actually be used actually in a production setting. And I don't think it's a zero-sum game. I think that we are all learning from each other. I think that we can all be helpful to one another. And that is really why I'm in this space and I'm obsessed with it, right? And maybe that's what also makes me a good founder, because to be a founder, you have to be ready to go through the highs and the lows and still believe that what you're doing has an end goal and a purpose that eventually will come around. And hopefully like that success is like highlighted by your clients and your partners.
What's one of your takeaways so far, being the founder instead of on the board or in the space or in the giant of like a BlackRock?
Yeah. Well, number one is I think you learn a lot about what your business is and how to grow your business specifically. So usually in the startup ecosystem, you're raising venture capital and you're expected to meet, certain metrics in a very short amount of time. It's all about getting to the seed and the Series A and Series B and like what's your ARR and like what's your year-over-year growth. And when you look at an infrastructure play like us, where, today we have clients saying, wow, your tech was so intuitive to use. It works seamlessly. It's delivered on time. It makes sense. Like, we didn't get there by moving so insanely fast within our first couple of years, right? We spent a lot of time in R&D. We spent a lot of time developing things, patenting things, really trying to understand, does this work? Why wouldn't this other option work? Changing a little bit of our product strategy, changing our go-to-market, changing some of the, theories we had about what would work or not work. And I think today, especially over the last year and a half, like we've really done a great job of taking all the learnings and the patient capital and time that's been put into this team and product and our company and all the learnings, and been able to commercialize it effectively because we have all of that under our belt. But now we have a technology moat, right? We have an understanding of like what's going to work and what's not going to work. And we can help even be an advisor to our clients. Our business is not an AI widget business. It's not a consumer business. Our business requires a different set of steps to make it successful. And that's okay.
How would you say so far you've done it differently? You were mentioning, patient capital, and that's against the rat race, against the like, oh God, we have to do the MRR, we have to do all this type of stuff. What else has been different?
I think other things that have been different, if I just compare it to like some of the top things that I see coming out of industry in terms of what, effectively shows a successful startup, is that larger teams and hiring quickly is a sign of success or helps you achieve success. I actually would go back and say, I don't think that. I think, even in R&D, like, you had to have a lot more team members. But as we've actually commercialized, I think having a smaller team can sometimes even be more impactful. So of course you need to hire as you grow, right? And like, that's a natural thing. But I think usually early stage team members are actually more capable of balancing, first of all, more items than they think.
Oh yeah.
And less people means less miscommunication,
That's right.
less duplication of work,
Yes.
and less broken processes, right? And like,
Yes.
as founders, we always laugh and joke, like, 0 to 20 is like a great, is a great number to be at. And, once you hit 25 to 50, like that's a whole different rung. And then 50 to 100 is a whole different rung. And as an early stage team, you're like, actually, how can I stay as lean as possible for as long as possible? As long as you're delivering on time to your clients and you're delivering quality product, like that's what you should be optimizing for. And you should really like push and stretch your team to understand, do I need to hire this person? Right. And
no one wants
also what are they going to bring and who I'm hiring should be like a 10xer, right? Like at an early stage, you don't hire someone to do one function. You hire someone with saying, this is your title, but here's all the other things you're also going to have to do. Right.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like it's a different makeup of a team member that joins an early stage startup versus like a later stage startup, in my opinion.
And isn't that refreshing? And isn't that great? I think the pendulum has completely swung too. Natalya, years ago, it's like, oh, how many people do you have? Oh, yeah. We're growing so much. And now it's like, how many people do you not have? Okay. How much are you cranking with 4 people, 5 people, 10?
Right.
Like that's a new flex. My read on it, but that's good.
And it's also, you should not feel ashamed of what that is or what that isn't. Right. But, I talk to a lot of, founders who are sitting with teams of like 50 plus. It's hard, right? Like your whole life of how you're operating the company changes, and what you're delivering and able to deliver also changes, right? And there's a lot of turnover as well during those periods of time, because they're slightly more tumultuous in terms of the startup lifeline or the startup, storyline.
What's become clear to you in this last year as we do this in December? You're also a December baby like me, so we were talking about that a little bit.
Yeah. I think you just have to realize that outcomes are influenced by so many other variables that are usually 99% out of your control.
Yeah.
I've always said, like, if I can emotionally attach myself to the process and what I can control, which is my input and not just outcomes, I will have a healthier mindset about building my business, and so will my team.
I love you saying the input, because we were just talking about this in BAM. It was like, we can control inputs, the outputs.
Exactly.
So inputs, that's what we got.
Yeah. And if something doesn't happen the way you planned, you have to pick up and move on quickly, right? Because in a startup, like, time is money, truly.
Yep.
And when external variables align, then things can get going so quickly, right? Like, I think about even where we are in terms of a market today, the whole digital asset and tokenization market has seen in this past year, with the US supporting friendly regulatory support, things that couldn't have possibly moved 2 years ago are now moving super quickly. And that's something that was completely outside of, our control as a company, right?
Yeah.
So it's just realizing that, and I think really, taking that to heart. I think that people then have a healthier relationship with how they think about their work at a startup where you're working crazy hours.
Hope so. Yeah. My goodness. What about an unlock? And I've been asking this more for founders, just like the not necessarily like what became clear, but something where you're like, I hacked this year. Oh my God, I can't wait to tell you. It could be something personal too.
Yeah. I think for me, investing in my support team inside and outside of work. So within work, the support team is the team, the leadership, the service providers, and people that you choose to, help support you on the things, because you have to at some point delegate, right?
Yeah, you got to.
And then I think the support team that you have in your personal life as well, right? A lot of us have made the choice to be in dual income households or dedicate a big part of our life to our career, but you can't do that and then put yourself in a position where you're burning out so badly that you can't show up to be the correct person you want to be for your team at work and your team, family, friends outside of work. And so I think whoever that support team is, investing in them, spending the time and money, again, that is super important. And it's something that, even 3 years ago, I didn't really understand the meaning of that and now have really figured out like, oh, like that is a hack. I think the other is like work faster than anyone else. You know, be the first one to send the follow-up. Be quick to reply on email.
Yes.
Capitalize on recency bias because people are so swamped.
Yes.
In 2 weeks, people might not remember, you know, why they were so excited about when they talked, you know, when they talked to you. Really
like
just, again, figure out a way to be faster than anyone else, I think is such a powerful concept, especially for founders when we're like very overwhelmed all the time.
I'm so glad you brought up, I haven't had someone reference this on like recency bias, which by the way, for, you know, if you're listening, it's like, oh, we favor recent events over historic ones. This is why we freaking forget history. Of course, it is a dominant feature of being a human. And yeah, leverage the recency bias. Give it, by the way, give an example of that if you could. Like, what's a little example you've noticed?
I mean, this is a simple one, but you know, people go to a lot of events, you meet people at these events, you have a great conversation, etc. And instead of taking a week to send the follow-up, like send it that night, send it the next day. If someone is reaching out for you, asking for that attention, like, you know, give it the time it needs. You don't need to write a huge long email response, but be quick to reply on email, right? Get that meeting scheduled. There should be no level of lag.
Recency bias, man. I'm down with it. And yeah, early bird gets the worm. Speed.
Yeah.
Speed.
I also think they're like other random hacks. Like I'm just trying to think about ones that, you know, I've seen be helpful over the last few years is if you're engaged in reading the news, sometimes that's the best way to find new leads or things to accelerate your current conversations. Hey, I saw your company was mentioned in the news here. Like we're actually doing something very relevant to that, right? There's just ways to authentically show up or reinsert yourself into someone's mind or reinsert yourself into someone's memory. So I think that
Inception
is a really cool hack. Yeah, exactly. And it's also making you a better ecosystem partner and a company because it shows that you're plugged into actually what's happening, not just like what you're building in a silo.
Exactly. Oh, gives you such many more tentacles. I mean, I am a voracious reader of obviously of all the damn news, but the print edition of Wall Street Journal and New York Times every day. It's cool to see the contrast, of course, between them. Business section in New York Times, not that great. Obviously, Wall Street Journal kicks ass. I always feel New York Times is like 3 months behind everything on anything business. Anyway, we don't need to go down that thing. The point is,
it might not even be like publications anymore, right?
Correct.
It might be even like podcasts or newsletters. Like people are consuming information in so many different ways. Like figure out what is like your best way of consuming information. Exactly.
Figure out which one. Oh, Natalya, thank you for being here today and chatting just a little bit on this very cold New York day.
Thank you so much for having me.
Natalya Thakur, founder, CEO of KNOVA. Talk soon.
Bye.